Hashtag the CEO refused the single dad's flower delivery, until she read the card. I'm sorry, but Ms. Winters doesn't accept personal deliveries during business hours. The security guard's words hung in the air as Marcus stood in the gleaming lobby, clutching a bouquet of white lilies. His shoulders slumped beneath his worn delivery uniform, the weight of his circumstances pressing down harder than the flowers in his trembling hands. If you're feeling moved by this story already, please hit that like button and subscribe to stay connected with more heartfelt tales that remind us of our shared humanity. Marcus hadn't always been a delivery man. Life had dealt him a different hand once, before his wife's illness, before the hospital bills, before becoming a single father to 8-year-old Emma. But here he was, making one last delivery before picking up his daughter from school, where she'd been struggling since losing her mother. Please, Marcus said quietly. These aren't just any flowers. It's important. The guard's expression softened slightly, but he shook his head. I have strict instructions. Ms. Winters has an executive meeting in 10 minutes. No exceptions. Victoria Winters, CEO of Horizon Enterprises, had built her reputation on precision and professionalism. At 38, she commanded the respect of an industry dominated by men twice her age. Her sleek corner office on the 40th floor overlooked the city she'd conquered through determination and uncompromising standards. I understand, Marcus replied, though disappointment clouded his eyes. As he turned to leave, his phone buzzed with a message from Emma's school. His heart sank. Another missed parent-teacher meeting he'd have to reschedule because of his delivery routes. Just then, the elevator doors opened, and Victoria emerged, surrounded by a small entourage of assistants. Her tailored navy suit and confident stride marked her as someone who didn't waste time, especially not on unexpected interruptions. Ms. Winters, her assistant said, the board is waiting in conference room A, and Tokyo is calling at 11. Victoria nodded briskly, but her gaze caught on the man with the flowers. Something about his defeated posture made her pause. What's this? The security guard straightened. Just a delivery, Ms. Winters. I was explaining that you don't accept. Who are they for? She asked directly, looking at Marcus. You, ma'am, Marcus replied, meeting her eyes. I'm with Riverdale Florist. I've tried delivering these 3 times this week. Victoria's expression hardened. She'd made her policy clear, no personal deliveries during work hours. Such distractions were inefficient and often embarrassing. The last thing she needed was another showy gesture from some business associate attempting to curry favor. I don't have time for this, she said dismissively. Please tell whoever sent these that I appreciate the gesture, but... They're not from an admirer, Marcus interrupted gently. There's a card. Something in his voice made Victoria hesitate. Her assistant checked his watch nervously as the seconds ticked by. Fine, Victoria said with an exasperated sigh. Leave them with reception. But Marcus didn't move. The sender was specific. These need to be delivered directly to you, with the card. Their eyes locked in a silent battle of wills. Around them, the busy lobby continued its morning rhythm, oblivious to this small standoff between 2 people from vastly different worlds. 30 seconds, Victoria conceded, extending her hand. Marcus passed her the envelope attached to the lilies. Victoria opened it with quick, efficient movements, expecting some trite message or manipulative plea for a meeting. The card inside was small, handwritten in careful, childish script. Dear Ms. Winters. My daddy says you were my mommy's friend a long time ago. Mommy left to live with the angels last year. She said white lilies remind people that beautiful things can grow even when it's hard. I saved my allowance to send you these because daddy says you might be having a hard time too after what happened with your company. Mommy always said we should help friends even when they forget us, Emma Walker, I'm 8. P.S. Daddy doesn't know I sent these. Please don't be mad at him, Victoria's hand trembled slightly as she read the name again. Walker. The memories crashed through the carefully constructed walls of her mind. Sarah Walker. Her college roommate, her closest friend, before ambition and career had pulled Victoria away. They'd lost touch 15 years ago when Victoria moved overseas for her first executive position. She looked up at Marcus, really seeing him for the first time. "You're Sarah's husband?" The board meeting, the Tokyo call, the pressing deadlines, everything receded as Victoria struggled to process this connection to her past. "Widower," Marcus corrected gently. "Sarah passed away 14 months ago. Cancer." Victoria felt the word like a physical blow. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I should have known." In that moment, standing in the polished lobby of the empire she'd built, Victoria Winters realized how completely she'd isolated herself from the human connections that had once given her life meaning. The recent scandal at Horizon, a data breach that had cost the company millions and nearly cost Victoria her position, had only intensified her focus on work to the exclusion of everything else. "Your daughter," Victoria said, looking again at the card. "She sent these?" Marcus nodded, a small, proud smile crossing his tired face. "Emma's just like her mother. Sees the good in everyone. Remembers everything Sarah ever told her. She found an old photo album with pictures of you and Sarah from college, and when she heard me mention the trouble your company was having." Victoria's assistant cleared his throat. "Ms. Winters, the board." "Reschedule," she said firmly, surprising everyone, including herself. "And get Mr. Walker a visitor's pass." "But Tokyo." "We'll understand a family emergency," Victoria finished, her tone leaving no room for argument. As her team dispersed with looks of confusion, Victoria turned back to Marcus. "Tell me about Sarah. Tell me about Emma. Please." And so began a conversation that would change both their lives forever. In Victoria's office, surrounded by awards and achievements that suddenly seemed hollow, Marcus shared the story of the years Victoria had missed. How Sarah had become an elementary school teacher, touching hundreds of young lives. How she and Marcus had met when he was still a successful architect, before he'd given up his practice to care for Sarah during her illness. How Emma had been their miracle baby after years of trying. "Sarah followed your career," Marcus said. "She was so proud of you. Kept every magazine article, every news clipping." Victoria fought back tears. "I should have been there. I should have kept in touch." Sarah understood, Marcus assured her. "She always said you were meant for great things, that some people have to focus all their energy on one path." As they talked, Victoria found herself sharing things she'd never told anyone, about the loneliness at the top, about how hollow her recent successes had felt, about the data breach that had shaken her confidence and left her wondering if she'd sacrificed too much for a company that could crumble overnight. "Sarah would have known exactly what to say to you," Marcus smiled sadly. "She always did." Victoria glanced at the clock. 3 hours had passed, yet for once, she didn't feel anxious about the time. "Tell me about Emma. She sounds remarkable." Marcus's face brightened. "She's everything. Smart, kind, stubborn as they come. She's struggling a bit now, new school, no mom. I'm doing my best, but between working 2 jobs and trying to keep up with her schoolwork." Victoria made a decision then, one that came from a part of herself she'd almost forgotten existed. "I'd like to meet her. If that's okay with you." That afternoon, Victoria Winters, CEO of Horizon Enterprises, left work early for the first time in 5 years. She accompanied Marcus to Emma's school, where a wide-eyed little girl with Sarah's smile stood waiting. "Are you my mom's friend?" Emma asked directly, studying Victoria with curious eyes. "I was," Victoria answered, kneeling to Emma's level despite her expensive suit. "And I'd like to be yours too, if that's okay." What began that day transformed 3 lives. Victoria found space in her carefully scheduled existence for Sunday dinners with Marcus and Emma. She helped Emma with school projects and listened to her stories about her mother. She offered Marcus consulting work with Horizon's architectural division, allowing him to use his skills again while maintaining flexible hours for Emma. In return, they gave Victoria something she hadn't realized she'd been missing, a connection to her own humanity, to the person she'd been before spreadsheets and quarterly reports had consumed her life. 6 months later, Victoria stood before her board of directors with a bold new initiative, the Sarah Walker Memorial Foundation, dedicated to supporting families affected by cancer, with a special focus on single parents. The program included flexible work arrangements, childcare assistance, and educational support. "This isn't just charity," Victoria explained to the skeptical board. "It's good business. When we support our employees through life's hardest moments, we build loyalty you can't buy. We create a culture that attracts and retains the best talent." The data supported her claim. Since implementing pilot programs inspired by Marcus's situation, employee satisfaction had increased by 32%, and productivity had actually improved, not declined as some had feared. As Victoria's professional and personal lives found a new balance, she discovered something unexpected: happiness. Real happiness that didn't depend on stock prices or performance reviews. The kind Sarah had always tried to show her existed. 1 year after those white lilies arrived in the lobby, Victoria, Marcus, and Emma stood together at Sarah's favorite spot in the city park, planting a memorial garden of lilies. "Do you think Mom can see these?" Emma asked, her hands dirty from planting. Marcus looked at Victoria before answering. In the months since reconnecting, their friendship had slowly blossomed into something deeper, something neither had been looking for but both had needed. "I think your mom arranged all of this," Marcus said, smiling at Victoria. "She always did have a way of bringing the right people together." Victoria squeezed Emma's shoulder gently. "Some people come into our lives at exactly the right moment, even when we think we're too busy to notice them." As Emma ran off to wash her hands in the park fountain, Marcus took Victoria's hand. "Thank you for accepting that delivery." Victoria smiled, thinking of how different her life would be if she'd stuck to her policy of no personal interruptions that day. "Thank you for being persistent enough to deliver it." The white lilies swayed gently in the breeze, symbols of beauty growing through hardship, just as Sarah had taught her daughter, just as Emma had reminded Victoria, just as their unexpected family continued to demonstrate each day. Life doesn't always deliver what we expect. Sometimes it brings something far more precious, if only we're willing to open the card and read the message inside. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful reminders of how human connection can transform our lives in unexpected ways. Remember that sometimes the most important deliveries aren't packages or flowers, but the people who bring them into our lives.